The Big 12 got 8 in. Is that enough, though? Did they get screwed again?
You're talking ball with the Big 12 squad. From Oklahoma State to Utah, from Kansas State to BYU, from Houston to Texas Tech, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big 12 weekend. Buckle up. It's the Big 12 squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up. You're part of the Big 12 squad.
What's up, guys? Welcome in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. This is Locked On Big 12 Squad, where we're talking, obviously, some hoops tonight. We're really happy to be doing that. There is no channel sponsor for today, so we're going to bring in the fellas. Number one, we're going to be talking about Parker Ainsworth, Locked On Houston. What's up, brother? What's up with, I brought him out. There he is. What's up, Parker? Obviously, Leaf Dolene. We appreciate you for being here, too, as well, from Locked On Arizona, and as well as Cody Stovall from Locked On Oklahoma State. Guys, we've got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the Big 12 has brought in 8 to the bracket, but is that enough? Did a couple teams get left out in this thing? Because there are people that had gripes. Was West Virginia one of those? Maybe. I think at the end of the day, the Big 12 is pretty well represented, but certainly you could make a case that a couple other teams should have got in. Parker, what are your thoughts on the bracket? Obviously, Houston's in a pretty good spot here. You guys actually landed in a pretty decent bracket as well, the side of the bracket that you're in.
Yeah, I don't hate anything about Houston's draw. Obviously, the biggest thing for Houston to be playing in the South, and that means they go through the Toyota Center. There's a whole bunch of good reasons behind doing that. The truth is about like missing teams, and I'll be interested to hear from you and Cody as guys that didn't make the cut. I don't mean that negatively. I don't feel like there's like a team that we missed out on that could like make a big run. Obviously, there's like George Masons happen every once in a while. It's part of the fun of the tournament, but there's not like some key player I wish I got to watch play in March Madness that's not getting to necessarily or anything quite like that. I guess we talked pre-pod about like Stanford's point guard is pretty good. Like I'm not saying there's no good players out there either, but I'm not like missing out on some they didn't cut DeBonsa from the tournament, right? Nothing like that happened. So I think on the whole, I'm all right.
Yeah, obviously you guys, do we really need to bring up Idaho? Have you actually looked into Idaho yet? Are they a team worth mentioning alongside Houston in this thing? I mean, what's the score going to be in this? 80 to 40?
FanDuel spreads right now at 23.5 as time recording. I will say they have a freshman 6'8" guy that will probably be playing somewhere else next year, and if anything, he might use this game as an audition tape, right? And I'm looking to talk to an expert this week on them to kind of get ahead of that, but they're all right. The trickier one might actually be around the second round. If you beat Idaho, you play the winner of St. Mary's and A&M, who are like as opposite can be. Buckyball is everyone is 6'6" and shorter, and they shoot a whole bunch of threes in full court press. St. Mary's is looking to have about 50 possessions a game. It's going to be interesting to see who wins that one and how things play out. But that's all in Oklahoma this weekend before you even get to Houston afterwards. So a lot of fun stuff happening in our side of the bracket. It's fun though. It's fun kinds of basketball.
Yeah.
I think it goes without saying that, yes, there's some teams that got left off. I'll be quick, Leaf, I promise. Cincinnati should be in here. I think you could make the argument West Virginia should be in there. You could make the argument that the Cowboys are good enough to be in there. But I will say this is actually a big opportunity, in my opinion. We've got several representatives in the NIT tournament to go along the NCAA tournament, and now we have representatives in the Crown tournament. Guys, picture this. If a Big 12 team wins the NCAA tournament, a Big 12 team wins the NIT tournament, and a Big 12 team wins the Crown tournament, can we not at least use that as momentum going into the next season to stop this disillusionment that the SEC is good at flipping basketball? Now, I'll give it to you, Lee, since you're one of the teams that can win it all alongside Houston.
I think Arizona and Houston have really, really good draws to at least make it to the Elite Eight. Ideally, if I'm Arizona, I don't love the Wisconsin part of it, but like you can't really complain that much. And I think the 2 and 3, I don't think Purdue and Gonzaga are particularly great for Arizona. As for Houston, I felt like Houston got among the best draws as there were, and Houston is one of those teams that's as bankable as you can have. Like Houston, you can book them to the Sweet 16 just about every year. And then from then on, I don't hate their draw either. Like Illinois, North Carolina, VCU, like I don't mind it at all. And I'm with Harker on this just as a huge college basketball nerd. I am so excited for the St. Mary's versus Texas A&M game, because one team literally presses every single possession and the other takes the clock to 28 every possession. Like it's going to be very, very interesting to see who can control tempo. And the weird part is usually the team that's in the extreme pressing, it's usually the under athletic team. It's usually the mid-major. This time it's the high major doing it to the mid-major. And so that's really, really particularly interesting to me.
And that's the last 7 or 8 years of West Virginia basketball. We started out press Virginia. Now we're about 60 possessions a game under Ross Hodge. So we've seen the entire gamut of what that all is that you're going to be seeing in that one game. But, obviously moving on to Arizona really quick, I think you guys, most people would consider to be the favorites in the tournament. The draw really doesn't matter in this case either. I wouldn't imagine Long Island. I mean, what's the spread in this game? Probably bigger than 23, I'm imagining.
I haven't even gotten there yet, but all I know about Long Island thus far before digging in super deep is Rod Strickland's the head coach. So if you're the main guy that people know as the coach, it's probably a good sign that Arizona's in good shape. But the other part is they're going from Long Island, New York to San Diego to play that game. So I don't know how they're feeling about that, but Arizona's case, I felt very good about the 8-9 matchup as well. Utah State, I live in Utah. I've seen Utah State plenty of times, and they're a team that I think is good, but they lack one critical factor when you play Arizona is you need tremendous size, and they're small. Villanova's center is about 6'8". So I don't think when you have Mo Krivos and those guys looming around the basket that Arizona is terribly worried in their first couple. So I like the path to the Sweet 16. And once you get to the Sweet 16, you got to play good ball. And Arizona, to me, is the favorite. ESPN and all those brackets have Duke at 27% and Arizona at like 18 as the most popular. But if you watch these selection shows, all the people are taking Arizona, and the team that was taken a lot last year was Florida. And, and it's not necessarily always a great thing to be picked widely, and there's expectation. But Arizona is as bankable as there is, because in the games they've been healthy this season, they haven't lost. Like the 2 games they've lost, Koa Pete was severely limited. And Koa Pete, you could argue, is the 3rd best player on the team, and many thought he would be the best player on the team. So Arizona's strength is just how many great players they have on a team that can step up when one's missing. But when they're fully healthy and whole, they're really hard to beat.
Fellas, let me
best
ask you
player on the team and the top 30
got-
player in the country.
We got 8 teams in the tournament. Would you consider it a disappointment if only 4 of the 8 made it to the Sweet 16?
I'll speak first. I don't think so. I actually would be interested to hear what somebody who's not in the tournament thought on that, though, because part of my thing is like I do think there's kind of a gap whether you want to draw it at Iowa State or Kansas and the rest of the conference. I would put Tech and BYU above that pre-injuries, but the injuries obviously limited them, and like there just seemed to be a pretty sizable gap within the conference. Now that top part of the conference can win the whole thing, whether it's Iowa State, Houston, Arizona. Like I do think they're that good, but I do think that there's kind of a line in the sand there post Richie Saunders and JT Toppin injuries that's hard to ignore.
I think Texas Tech
agree.
has at least a reasonable path is why I brought that up. I would be slightly disappointed if we didn't get 4 of the 8 teams in the Sweet 16. Maybe not the Elite 8, right? That might be asking for too much. But in my personal opinion, yes, the Big 12 needs to send a message here. You're right. We've probably only got 2-3 teams that legitimately can win it all. But I think numerically, just like last year, if you get 8 teams in, you got to get at least 4 of those to the Sweet 16 to give the Big 12 that credence and respect level that we deserve, in my opinion. Because guys, if we only get 2 teams in the Sweet 16, everyone's going to talk about how the Big 12 is overrated and people need to stop talking. But it'd be the exact opposite. If we got 4 or 5 teams in, I do think that it does help with the national image of the Big 12 to go alongside winning the crown and the NIT, huh?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it too, I mean, you're talking about really good basketball teams at the top of the Big 12, and Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech, and BYU all have a path there. And I mean, you've got the best player in the country at BYU. Texas Tech has probably been one of the most stable programs in college basketball for 5 years. Kansas is Kansas. Iowa State, obviously has one of the bigger matchup problems, issues, and how do you say his last name, Machilovich, or however you say his last? I can never say it right, but I mean he's a matchup problem every week. And then obviously
he's so good, you don't have to get his name right. Everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
Right? It's Monchilovich? Is that how you say it?
I think there's Silovich somewhere in there. But
yeah, something like that. It's tough to say. And then I would say this too: guards are, March guards are important. Demas Falks at UCF could be a problem for some teams, especially with very little problems or very little time to prepare for him, because he's truly one of the tougher matchup problems in the league, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this tournament. Up next, we got to talk a little bit about this too. There was something that was put out that talked about the spending in college sports, and Indiana way up there at $32 million. Some of the Big 12 teams a little bit more manageable. Are we the most efficient Big 12 that can be? And then Parker's got something he wants to bring up too. We're going to talk about that right after the break.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. It's officially tournament time, and the number 1 seeds are set. UConn is the number 1 overall seed at 34-0 and will headline Fort Worth Regional 1 at Dickies Arena. Joining the Fort Worth site as a top seed is Texas, leading Regional 3. Out west, UCLA enters at 31-1 and takes the top spot in Sacramento Regional 2, while South Carolina leads Sacramento Regional 4. The first round of the tournament tips off this Friday. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
And of course, we can't forget about our friends at FanDuel as well, guys. And we love talking about FanDuel on the show. Absolutely. College basketball being nonstop with big games, tie spreads, momentum swings every single night. You've got early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, so there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential win with the College Basketball Parlay Profit Boost. And you can build any college hoops parlay you really want with rivalry games. You've got ranked matchups, really whatever fits your deal. And here's the thing, guys. You can mix spreads, you can mix totals, player props to match how you see the slate playing out. And then you could just apply that profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout big time. Go safe, go bold, ride the team you're with, who you followed all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com with FanDuel. Play your game. It's segment 2. Let's crack open this do. And obviously, we're going to get to a topic that I thought was interesting today. We're talking about efficiency. Matt Brown put out an article today talking about spending. And some teams are spending a lot of money, guys. Indiana spent $32 million. Tennessee spent $23 million. Arizona is at $22 million. Texas is at 22. UConn's at 21. But for the most part, what I'd noticed about this article and what this tracks is everything but NIL, basically, right? So everything but NIL is included. So that is a kind of a big caveat. But I would say this. You look at some of the overspending for some of these teams. I mean, what are these teams doing? What is Indiana doing? Now, you take out $8 million from Mike Woodson and that buyout. So they're not as far ahead of everybody as you would think. But far and away the biggest flop in all of basketball and football, and not football, but basketball this year has got to be the Indiana Hoosiers. I mean, how do you spend that much money and not even make the tournament? It's incredible. You're talking about the best staff. This also counts recruiting as well. So we're talking about freshmen. I mean, how do you do it? Arizona, good job. $22 million spent well, man. Leaf, what do you say?
Well, the answer to the Indiana one is they should have hired Ben McCollum, but that's a side tangent, because if they had Ben McCollum and Signetti, they might win both each year, because McCollum's unbelievable. And Iowa's team has one player, and it's Bennett Sturts, and the rest of the team, I'm not trying to be dismissive of them, but you could watch the game and see any player be like, oh yeah, Like, he's decent. Nope, it's just Bennett Sturts. And they're in the tournament, and they've got a chance to win their first game. But to the question about Arizona, I think a lot of it has been poured into basketball. Obviously, football did a good job, but like, I think there's a clear hierarchy to a lot of these schools. And some of them tried to mix and match and say, like, yeah, we're going to dip just this much into football, this much into basketball. And it ends up putting a lot of weight and pressure on one of the programs or the other. And it ends up costing the other program. Like, if you were to be a football school, I think it makes more sense to prioritize football. And in Arizona's case, I think basketball will always be the bigger draw. I mean, obviously football may cost more because you're paying more players, you're paying for different stuff. But like, in terms of basketball spending, Arizona is going to be in the top echelon always. And in the football spending, I think they'll be in the mid tier. And that's why you expect Arizona to be a championship contender in basketball. And you're pleasantly surprised by them being a good team in football, a team that had an outside chance of getting to the Big 12 title. Obviously they didn't, but they were 9-3 in the regular season. That's a good season. And would you like to be better? Absolutely. But the year before, you're 4-8. So that was great. But basketball is always going to be number one. Like, Parker and Kelvin Sampson had the whole talk about, like, oh, we're poor relatively speaking compared to non-Big 12, but they're going to prioritize basketball enough to get 5 stars. And to me, that's a hierarchy of spending of an athletic department that I think makes sense.
We're poor, but Paul, tell us exactly where Houston comes into this whole spiel, because I got a good feeling about it.
About $14.5 million, man. Really good job from Houston, obviously, and very well spent there too. I mean, you're talking about both sports, and not really surprised. I mean, you guys have had to do more with less for a while now, coming into the Big 12, and you're not getting a full share. So it's not surprised, right? I mean, when do you guys start getting a full share? Is it next year?
Yeah. So we'll start in the we'll have it. I guess the July 1st is the date or whatever, right? So that's when the things start. That was part of the agreement coming in, I guess I should say. And now, my understanding was that when Houston and their group of 4 schools came to the Big 12, none of them had previously been in a power conference, since that was part of the agreement. Whereas the Pac-12 schools had, like, well, we were in the power conference kind of argument, so they didn't have it, and it was also agreed upon a year later. I don't know if they'd have done it quite that way had things happened the other way around, but also I don't know if Houston would have been included if it had been the other way around, so I'm not going to hate it either. Look, I will say, I think that you've seen Houston make great strides doing more with less, and I don't mean to go back to, when people said in the 80s and 90s and when the Big 12 broke off from the Southwest Conference and left Houston out or whatever, but there was a fear, like, what if Houston got that oil money involved in their athletic program because of all the talent in Houston and all of that? And we're obviously a far cry from that. Fertitta's just but a man, right? But I think there is a momentum shift happening, whether it's Dr. Couture at the top, new AD Chris Pesman. Like, I think it goes all the way around. And so I'm feeling good about it. You mentioned however many $1 million. That has to be like the best per win between football and basketball combined, I would imagine, in the country. Bluntly.
It was up there. I don't have it right in front of me anymore. I think it was definitely, I think it mentioned one of the best in the country. I do remember that. There's a lot of data there. I would highly suggest the article if you know who Matt Brown is. He does a great job. Just so you guys know, West Virginia is at 10.77 million. That gives us about $566K per win, which is not the worst, but it's not the best. We're about, middle of the package. But obviously we're ramping up spending now with Rim Baker and company saying, hey, look, West Virginia, we were committed to being in the top funding tier of the Big 12. That's not going to come in, that report won't happen until this coming year, based off of this year. So, and same thing with Oklahoma State. When you guys spent $7 million on one quarterback, that doesn't even count in this. And that's a big part of this, is NIL isn't really being counted. And and to some extent, like when you look at some of these universities that are private, you can FOIA all you want, but sometimes you're just not going to get the information. And that's why a lot of these Big 12 teams weren't listed in this. But it was alluded to that most Big 12 teams were in that 11 to 16, $17 million range, So, I mean, usually it's a Big 10 or an SEC school if it's 18 or above, 20 or above. So it's interesting. But what are your thoughts on Oklahoma State and how they've done with spending? Obviously, you're going to have to probably count some of what Gundy's offsetting and all that too, right?
I mean, we had one win this previous season and not very many more the year before. So if you're talking about return on investment, if Houston might have the best in the country when it comes to wins per how much you spent, we might be the worst, definitely in the Big 12. I will say this, though. There has been a massive investment. There seemed to be some reluctancy from some donors to participate heavily under Mike Gundy. Now that we've got Raj Murdy and Eric Morse, those individuals that were supposedly waiting in the wings, they have clearly stepped up. You mentioned the $7.5 million we're paying to the quarterback. We're taking care of Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young. We've got some defensive dudes that we're definitely taking care of. I think Oklahoma State is going to be viewed in a significantly different light after this upcoming season. But until now, basketball has been trending the right way, but not great. Football has been absolutely abysmal. So I think we spent fine. We just spent the money on the wrong people, right? There's a difference between being able to spend money and being able to allocate the funds towards the right dudes. Last year, we probably spent roughly in the same category as Houston, probably in the 15-ish range, and we didn't pay for the right guys. We're paying for the right guys now, and we've got donors that seemingly are flooding the campus with more dollars, including basketball, right? There's a lot of conversations about NIL and basketball, and still we're going up to $10 million next year. So I imagine that we're going to be much more competitive in both sports moving forward. So let's have the same conversation this time next year, buddy.
The buddy system works in sports too, and Parker is going to tell us a little bit about that right after the break. All right, guys, we got to talk about our friends over at Robinhood right now. They're doing an incredible job. And right now with Robinhood, what if sports were traded like markets? Well, now you can kind of do that. You can put your IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long if you want. You can use sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets actually change the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live. It's in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood now, available across U.S., where you can download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. And of course, guys, our friends at Indeed. We're talking about Indeed right now. And Indeed's kind of killing the game when you look at what they do, because they try to talk about workplace chaos. There's deadlines stacking up. Is your inbox overflowing? The one position you have to fill still sitting open. Well, when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with skills, experience, and location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spending less time searching, more time interviewing, that's the candidates that check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. You can do that. And that's right. That's less time searching, more time actually interviewing those people, less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast where the terms and conditions apply. Do you need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Boys are back in town, is what I probably could have said. Parker, you brought something up to me right before the show. We'll pivot really quick. Football Scoop does have some predictions on win totals for the Big 12, but I actually think yours is kind of cool. What were you talking about?
I actually think it's kind of cool. Listen, Houston, we just talked about doing well given the financial situation. BetMGM, which is, I guess, another outlet out there that does sports things, posted an interesting list on social media, and it compared who has the most successful basketball and football coaches, the revenue sports, right? And I got to ask, where y'all at? Where are y'all at? Houston comes at number 2, Alabama 1, Tennessee 3, Oregon 4, Louisville 5, Virginia 6, Miami 7, Florida 8. We're the only Big 12 reps, guys. Where y'all been?
Well, mark my words, give it a couple years, let Eric Morris get rolling, because David Taylor is already the other part of that equation. Steve Lutz could be a guy, but if you're talking about combinations, I'm a little upset that they only included those two particular sports, because I think Penn State would even have an argument. If you looked at Cale Sanderson, and if Matt Campbell is successful, they could probably be on this list as well. Let's not dismiss the man sport of wrestling, ladies and gentlemen, because David Taylor would be up there after Eric Morris gets this thing rolling.
The possibility of Arizona being on this list intrigues me. You give your guy one more year on the football side of things, Tommy Lloyd would be an easy add.
Yeah, I was thinking that the Brett Brennan going 4-8 in the first year and kind of just a transitional year really hampered the chances here. But Tommy Lloyd, through 5 years of being a head coach, has broken the record for most wins in 5 years.
He's crushing it.
So I think Tommy Lloyd's obviously going to be on here. And I'm not saying he didn't inherit a great crop of talent. Like, they came in with a 1 seed level talent. He got coach of the year. He got coach of the year this year in the Big 12. So they got talent. Brett Brennan, I think this year's a prove it year, because they're 4-8, then 9-4. And I think, you got Fafita one more time. I think the bar is at least 7 wins. I think they should be aiming to be an 8 or 9 win team. And if you can exceed that, then you have a great season, and they're certainly on this. My big takeaway was, why is Alabama there? Kalen DeBoer has been like an underwhelming football guy. And Oates, they've had 1 seed year. They made 1 Final Four as a 4
seed. It's ridiculous.
And then each year they've been like, top 2 preseason. They have so much talent, 5 stars, money spent for transfers, and they're a 4 seed again. Like,
a 4 seed,
I think that's absolutely insane that they're number 1 on that graphic.
That's also why MGM is hot garbage, and we use Pendle.
They've got they got more guys kicked out of school than they have Final Fours. That's never good percentages. I think Holloway's officially out of school at this point. Look, I also,
campus, but he is playing in the game on Thursday or Friday.
That's ludicrous. He had pounds plural in his back. Anyway, I want to ask. Look, we can all have our respective hats on and say why we think our people should be.
Real quick, we'll talk about some win totals here in the Big 12, because I think when you look at next year, what they're predicting for, they've got Texas Tech at 11.5, which is crazy. BYU and Utah at 8.5. Arizona, Houston, Kansas State at 7.5. Arizona State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, and TCU at 6.5. Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas, UCF, West Virginia at 5.5. And then Deion Sanders is at 4.5. Yeah, they're just Deion Sanders now. In all seriousness, though, what are your guys' takeaways from your specific team and what they've got going on there?
6.5 is reasonable. I have no reason to talk disparagingly on it. Do I think Wyatt Young, Caleb Hawkins, Drew Mestamaker should account for more? Yes. But after a 1-win season, I think 6.5 is fair.
I'll cut Leaf off. I think that, honestly, Houston's a little undersold there. I understand that they had a fairly friendly schedule last year. Their schedule next year is not a whole lot less friendly. They have Oregon State at home. They play Southern. They play Georgia Southern. Those are their non-conference games. You obviously have to go to Tech. You have to go to Utah. I think another tough one they got at some point. Morgantown's a tough place to play, and I don't know as much about them as you would, Paul. You can tell me more about them next year. To Manhattan, Kansas was a tough place to play, but like last year, this team went 10-3. If they won half the games just listed, you're looking at another 10-ish win season. I think that's a pretty strong. Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about Houston going in next year, given the way their portal class shook out, the recruiting class of Keyshawn, obviously. I'm feeling all right. I think that's a low number for us.
What about Arizona?
I think that the number's pretty spot on. I mean, just a couple moments ago, I had said that, like, it's a make or break year. It's a prove it year for Brennan and the boys. But I said 7 is kind of like the level of like, okay, like you got to get 7 to maintain momentum. But I kind of expect more than that because you bring back the offensive player of the year in Noah Fafita. I'm sorry, excuse me. What should have been the offensive player of the year, in my opinion. And he ended up being the quarterback of the year because he was first team all quarterback. And if you were to tell me that you get that back and you retain all your coordinators, offensive, defensive, keep the coach and system, I feel like you're bound to go up. The only thing that would be a question is how well do you replace the defensive backs that made Arizona such a vaunted defense by the end of the season, where their turnover ratio was such a positive. So I think there is room for regression, but I just think having Fafita, if he's healthy, allows you to be at 7 at the baseline. And I think if you're anything better than 7, you're pretty pleased. I think obviously Arizona fans that listen to that will be like, oh, we should be better. But I think it's realistic to say like 8 wins is pretty good, even if 9 was the number last year, because Arizona started 1-3 in conference, rattled off a bunch. And I think they had a fairly friendly schedule with a couple wins that, weren't like, if you picked before the season, you're probably not saying they win because they came off 4-8, but also they have a tough schedule coming in. 8 wins and beyond, I'm happy.
What about
All
you,
right.
Paulino? Do
Yeah,
you like
real
your
quick
Mountaineers
here, I'll
pick?
say, obviously for West Virginia, you could go either way on it. I think personally, I mean, as a homer, I'll say 5.5 is probably a little bit low. I would like to see us up into that 6.5 or 7.5 box. Reason is like, and especially, I've spoken to a lot of people in camp here at the start of the spring, and West Virginia's offensive line has a chance to be elite this year. They went and spent right around $4 million on the offensive line alone. They've got the best freshman, I think, offensive lineman in the Big 12 in Kevin Brown, who broke every single record this offseason in the weight room coming in. Luckily, Penn State lost that kid. We are so lucky to get a kid of his caliber. Like I said, coming into this, I think he'll be the Jordan Seaton, West Virginia. I think he's that good. He's probably going to start. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And that's included in West Virginia. Went out and got 6 starters from the portal from other places, 2 all-conference guys, one guy that started the last 7 games of the year at Kansas State and had a heck of a run that we gave $500K to, and that's not including the incumbent, the people that were already here last year. So, yeah, I do think, and then you bring in Rick Trickett, the best offensive line coach, one of the 2 or 3 best of the last 30 years. He's put over 40 guys in the NFL. He won a national championship with Saban. He won a national championship with Jimbo, and now he reunites with Rich Rod, where he's had a top 5 rushing offense 3 of the last 3 years in college football. 2 of those with Rich Rod, 1 without Rich Rod, because he's just the best offensive line coach. We're one of the best out there. So I think offensively we're going to be really good. Mike Hawkins Jr., early reports on him are very good. He's a 4.3 kid, and when you give Rich Rod a 4.3 quarterback that can run 4.3 with the leading rusher from last year in Cam Cook, who was started at TCU, he's now at West Virginia, who had 1,600 rushing yards last year, 1,900 from scrimmage. I think we're going to have an elite offense. Our defense, I don't know. I think there are some holes there we have to fix, and that's the reason I'm not totally over the moon for us right now, to be honest. I think we're going to have a year 2 jump that's similar to Houston's, but I don't think we're going to be as good as Houston's was. I think we'll probably be closer to 7, maybe 8 if we're lucky. I'm trying to keep it reasonable there. But our offense is in position to be really good next year. I really believe that. So look out for West Virginia as far as a little bit of a sleeper, I think.
I think we can all agree Michael Hawkins Jr. has a ton of talent, but I'm going to give you something, a piece of wisdom to hold on to for the rest of your life. Paul, you ready? You can't never trust a Sooner, man. So you're getting all excited for nothing. He's going to let you down. I guarantee it.
Well, we've got Scotty Fox, you know what I mean? Like, that's a heck of a battle going on. And there's no guarantee that he beats out Scotty, who had just thrown into the fire as a true freshman last year. So don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but what did you say about them Oklahoma State Cowboys there? Did you talk about that?
Yeah, I said it was fair.
Okay.
I think
that's right. You didn't say much. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're all in agreement then. Anybody else on this list just egregious really quick though, before we go? Like, is 11.5, like, is that really where Texas Tech is at? Is that the bar for them right now?
It's what they're spending. I mean, they spent like it, right?
I can tell you this, as a betting man, I love Tech. I think they have a really good chance to win the Big 12 again.
11 and a half is a lot of games.
I'm not taking the over on that bet. No way.
Yeah, I mean, they lose at least one in
conference.
Morgantown.
Nope.
I'm stunned they're not on that list of best coaches of basketball and football. I mean,
that's a great point.
Over-under is 11 and a half for football, and Grant McCasland just had you in the Elite Eight in year 2. Was that even year 1? No, that was year 2. How are you not on that list? And someone like Oregon and
back to
11 wins in basketball.
McCasland lost his best player, reigning conference player of the year, and still has them as a 6 seed or whatever. 5 seed, 6, whatever. Yeah, and it's like, okay.
You want to hear a crazy Ren Baker stat?
16. Like if we really quickly bring something up, like I think the Big 12 gets 4 in the Sweet 16 because I think Arizona, Houston, Iowa State should be in the Sweet 16. Like their paths a ton. And then I think one of BYU, Texas Tech, or Kansas can make it. Like I think St. John's will beat Kansas. I'll just be upfront about that. But like it's not crazy to say Kansas can win that one. I think BYU can beat Gonzaga should they beat a Texas or NC State. I think Texas Tech will beat Akron and will beat Alabama because Alabama doesn't guard. And so like you got 6 chances to make the Sweet 16 in my opinion. Like I'm not trying to be disparaging to UCF or TCU. TCU obviously got Duke if they can beat Oklahoma State. I think UCLA is a tough draw for UCF. But like you got 6 chances to make the Sweet 16. I think they should have 3 in the Elite 8. Iowa State's got a little more tenuous there, but I really expect Arizona and Houston both to be in the Elite 8. And I've got both in my bracket in the Final 4.
Atta baby leave.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. It's been a fun conversation. Guys, before you go, make sure you check out the Locked On Everydayer Club. Absolutely killing the game with them right now. And this will be the last day that you can get in before the tournament starts. Right now with the Locked On Everydayer Club, there are a ton of perks going on right now, guys. So if you never miss a show, make sure you go to lockedonbig12.supercast.com or any of the other respective teams in the conference, whether that be Oklahoma State, whether that be Houston or the Cougs, or whether that be Locked On Arizona Wildcats. Any of those teams, you can go to their Locked On Perspective show and you can get there through supercast.com with the promo code March. That'll get you a month free, but you can only get there if you do it before the tournament starts. So you better get there today or it's over with for you guys. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. We'll see you on the next one here in an ode to Drake on the Dolce Grande Squad.